Hi YouTube, my name is Mariah Choate. I'm a nationally certified school psychologist turned stay-at-home mom who spent 12 years in public education. I am here to tell you what the districts won't when it comes to public education in America, and specifically how to beat the overwhelm and the frustration in the schools. This specific video is all about explaining the most important special education laws that schools are required to tell you, yet they never do. My future videos will be focused on frequent issues I've seen in the school setting and some tips on how to navigate those issues well, while also using special education law to ensure best practice. Just a reminder, this channel is for parents of students with suspected or diagnosed disabilities, those who already have an individualized education plan or program, IEP, or those who might need them. Also teachers, counselors, and other school psychologists or school psych interns, and those who may be experiencing frustration in their own schools. I hope this channel is helpful, and if it is for you, make sure to like this video and subscribe so I can keep making content at no cost to you. Now, before we get into the confusing world of special education processes, I'm going to review the main educational laws that every educator and parent needs to know when it comes to public education. Number 1, free and appropriate public education, or FAPE. This law mandates that states provide a free, no cost to the parent, appropriate to meet the needs of the child, public education to children with disabilities. All right, number 2, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. This builds upon the foundation of FAPE and makes sure that a child's individual needs are met through what we call an IEP, or Individualized Education Plan or Program. The IDEA governs how states and public agencies provide early intervention, special education, and related services to eligible infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities. For infants and toddlers birth through age 2, they receive early intervention services under IDEA Part C, and that means that you can receive support and services if you're eligible through various agencies until age 2, but then for children and youth through 21 or some states 22, you receive special education and related services under IDEA Part B, which is the public school's responsibility. And then number 3, child find. It is a key law that every school must abide by. This requires all school districts to identify, locate, and evaluate all children with disabilities or suspected disabilities, regardless of severity. It means that a student does not require a medical diagnosis for FAPE, IDEA, or child find laws to be put in place. So for example, if your child went to school and had presentations of autism, so they were hand flapping, having difficulties with changes in routine, vocalizing different ways, and nonverbal speech difficulties, the school has a requirement by law to recognize that those traits fit the traits of a student with autism. And they have a responsibility to contact you as a parent to get your permission to assess your child to see if they qualify for an IEP or a 504 plan. All right, that brings me to the last important law that I want to share, called the Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. So this requires schools to provide accommodations and supports to ensure that students with disabilities have equal access to education. So while IDEA specifically addresses the needs of students with disabilities who require special education services, Section 504 provides broader protections for all students with disabilities, regardless of whether they require those specialized instruction or not. This law is important because it ensures equal opportunities for students with disabilities to participate in educational programs and activities. There's many differences between an IEP and a 504, and I might cover that in a different video. But the main one is that when a student has an IEP, they don't necessarily need a medical diagnosis, but they require specialized support in order for them to access education. Whereas a 504 plan supports students who might have a diagnosis, but they do not necessarily need specialized instruction. They only require supports and accommodations. So all of that to say, the nuances between the two are really for a school psychologist and the IEP team to determine for eligibility. And so I always encourage parents that when you request an IEP for a child, that you also include a mention about seeing if the student qualifies for a 504 plan, even if they don't qualify for an IEP. And I'll show you an example of that in the next video. All right, now that we've reviewed the main laws of special education, let's jump into an overview. So special education includes a whole range of services and placements. So speech therapy, counseling, behavior support, adaptive PE, occupational therapy, physical therapy. There's special day classrooms, self-contained classrooms, or general education classes with push-in services. It all depends on the child's unique needs. And you won't hear this from many people, but the whole goal of special education is to help a child in their area of need until they don't require those supports anymore. So if a student is able to close what we call the educational gap, or the difference between their skills and abilities compared to others their age, ideally, once they close that gap or get the support they need, the goal is for them to not require services anymore and then even be exited from special education when able. So an IEP is exactly that, a plan detailed out in a live document, a live legal document for how a child will receive special education services. And this document changes depending on the needs and the abilities of the child. And this document details exactly what the student has strengths in, where they have needs, what their present levels of performance are, whether that's academic, behavioral, or social, and exactly which goals and services are required in order to provide that student a free and appropriate public education, or FAPE. Now, in the next video, we're going to talk about how to request a person-centered IEP for your student or child, and also how to utilize these laws to your advantage. As always, be sure to follow me on Instagram at holistically_psyched, and make sure to snag my 4 free guides to get you started on understanding the importance of development, student supports, and behavior. And I'll link all of that below. Thank you so much.